It's Zarek from Real Chiropractic Dynamics, and I'm here today with my friend Travis Corcoran. And the title of this video, this podcast, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I thought it would be fun to talk with Travis about this because I've been to a couple of your talks, Travis. I've seen you at Axiom, I've seen you at the Science of Subluxation seminar, and you always have a very interesting way of talking over the linguistics and the things that we are saying to our colleagues and to our patients within chiropractic. And I thought you'd be a really good person to get on here and just put a little bit of attention into the things that maybe we say that we don't realize we're saying, and pay more attention to that. So before we jump in, do you want to do a little quick introduction for anyone that hasn't heard of you? I know you've done other podcasts before, but for anyone that hasn't been exposed to you yet, tell us about yourself.
Sure. This is always tough to do, talking about yourself. But real quick, I work in the Netherlands. Started my own business not too long ago, actually quite a bit, 10 years ago. Been in the Netherlands for 11 years, went to Palmer, Davenport. Prior to chiropractic, I studied nuclear engineering in the U.S. Navy and also got my degree in philosophy, minored in biology. That's it from my background, really. I love working with a team, board member of the IFCO and advisor to the board of the Alliance for Chiropractic in Singapore, and looking to do even more stuff in the future.
And basically, I asked you on because we've discussed a little bit about these things before, and I said, send me 10 things that chiropractors should put more effort, more thought into how we communicate it. So for transparency, Travis sent me the list. I've seen the list. We haven't discussed it at all, and there's at least 8 of them on the list that I know I've said. In fact, there was ones I've said this week, and we'll be able to go through that as well. There's some of them I look at and I'm like, okay, I can see where Travis is going to go with that. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a few of them on there that surprise me, and I'm really excited to see like why your interpretation of why we shouldn't say these things, or we should change how we say it. And yeah, so let's jump into it. So this is a list of 10 stupid shit that chiropractors say, and let's talk through it, and I'm excited for it, Travis.
Right on. You want me to go through? I'll just go through them one by one.
Yeah, you can go through it one by one, and then we'll discuss it.
Perfect. And full disclaimer too, it's not that this is just my perspective. From looking at this, from my perspective, I just bring these up because I know that they're said with great intention. However, their lasting impact and what it does to the profession, and that's why I bring these up. I think we can say the exact same thing, or what we're trying to say, in a better way.
Yeah, and we're not picking on anybody by saying this.
No.
In fact, I'm guilty of saying at least 8 of these, so I'm certainly not picking on it. I'm just curious to hear your interpretation of it.
Yeah.
All right,
there's a couple I've said too. There's a couple of these, not many, but I have to admit some of them I've done the same because they're very appealing, right? And you've heard me talk in the past. Appeal to emotion is very powerful, but emotion is fleeting, right? When we understand something, that has a lot more permanence. So that's what I'm going to talk about here. If we understand what we're saying, it's more profound, has more impact, and it lasts longer. So we'll start with the first one. The first 6, by the way, are exclusively chiropractors. The last 4, I hear these all the time, but you hear them a lot from chiropractors as well. So the first 6, these are strictly for chiropractors, and the first one is this is one of the biggest. This is at the top of my list. Those that don't know, Zarek sent me like 2, and those 2 were my 2 biggest ones. And that first one is chiropractic chose me. I think
I've said that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. And again, like you said, we're not picking on anyone. And there's a very understandable reason why people say that, right? It makes you feel incredibly special, which is unfortunate that we need to feel special when, in fact, if you're a chiropractor, you are special. You don't need a slogan to feel special. When you understand the profession, what you're doing, you are special. Right? And I also find this statement very At first blush, it's so empowering. Oh my God, I was chosen. But in fact, it's one of the most disempowering statements in our profession, right?
Okay.
Because if you were chosen by an external agency, then you could say, well, I really wanted to work at the post office, but shit, chiropractic chose me, man. And then look at the converse too. What about people that like, oh man, I so wanted to be a chiropractor, but I wasn't chosen. Do you understand how ridiculous this sounds, right? I mean, no chiropractor looks at medical doctors or pharmaceutical representatives, right? You don't look at those people. They don't go to their conferences and say, pharmaceutical salesman chose me. Why is this the only profession that says that? And to make a choice, to be chosen or to choose, that requires an agency of intellect, right? Chiropractic is not an agency. It is a profession. It doesn't choose shit, right? So it's time that we throw this self-serving slogan away, because all it does is create a generation of chiropractors that won't take responsibility for the profession. They don't need to, because the profession is its own entity that chooses people, does this, does that, and I don't have to do anything, right?
Right. So it's quite
There are people,
disempowering to speak of it.
I think so. Yeah, because it shirks responsibility. The moment when you change it and you say, I chose chiropractic, I chose chiropractic. Think about what Rene Descartes said. I think, therefore I am. I think, I choose, I doubt, I do. Mean I am the agent. I am a human being. I am being human. Think about that.
Right.
Chiropractic chose me is very disempowering in a way to shirk your responsibility as a chiropractor.
Right.
When you say, I chose to be a chiropractor, now you're in a position you know you have to take responsibility, the ability to respond.
Okay.
That's why that one, that's why that one's at the top of my list. And it's, I know it's a tough one to bring up, especially at conferences when I say this, because there's a lot of people that are going there to feel good, to get the feeling that they're special, get the feeling that they're important, the feeling that they're doing something.
Yes, it sounds
right?
more sexy from the stage if you can shout, chiropractic chose me, rather than I made a logical decision to
Yeah.
do this.
And it's okay even if it wasn't a logical decision. The fact that you made a decision, here's how we can say the same thing, but better. Chiropractic appealed to me. I was drawn to it. I loved its eloquence, how concise it is. It's the perfect form of healthcare. It adds nothing, takes nothing. It really, the logic, the eloquence of chiropractic appealed to me, and I chose to do something about it. Whether serve as an assistant, to go to chiropractic school, to invest my time, money, energy. I did this. It appealed to me, and I made a decision. But if that decision was made for you, oh, well, then, I have no real responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Let's go to number 2 then.
All right. Ooh, this one's going to be tough because a lot of people already have it tattooed all over their body, right? And this one's, I'll keep it short, but number 2, expect miracles.
Oh, man.
I
like
know
that one.
Well, who doesn't, right? Everyone likes a miracle. However, all I have to do is ask you one question. What D.D. Palmer did for Harvey Lillard, was that a miracle? That was not a miracle. Harvey Lillard wasn't the recipient of a miracle. That wasn't faith healing. D.D. Palmer knew what his intention was, set out and acquired those results.
Right.
Now here's the thing, subjectively, to clients that get, my God, if I have like 30 years of migraines and then you set up on my atlas and made a correction, and my migraines that I've had for 30 years are gone or reduced in intensity or frequency or both, doesn't matter. I'll tell you what, that seems like a miracle to me.
Yeah, for you, that's a miracle.
Subjectively, it'll be a miracle to me up until you, the chiropractor, can explain to me exactly how that works neurologically, at that point, it's no longer a miracle because I have an understanding. That's what D.D. Palmer had. He had an incredible understanding. It wasn't a miracle, but it probably appeared that way to Harvey Lillard and many of the early clients, and it still does but that's very subjective. I wouldn't call it a miracle. I call it like physiology.
So it's like if you do a really good adjustment and they're like, "Oh my God, you're so gifted. You have magic hands." It's like, no, I don't have magic hands. I trained for years to be able to do that in 1 minute, and that's why you're having results. It's not that I was born this way. It was through training.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying that when a pilot flies a plane, he didn't perform a miracle, right?
Yeah.
But I get it though. However, here's why that hurts the profession. Just like the first one hurts us because we shirk our responsibility and what we can do to serve the profession.
Right.
The second one, the expect miracles, that hurts the profession because, as you well know, there's one extreme end that's really, it seems to be their modus operandi, or I don't know what it is, but they want to destroy this profession or turn it into physical therapy or completely MSK. And so, and they like to call the other extreme religious fanatics. Well, it's not doing us any favors when we use religious terminology.
Right.
Because this is a profession. It's not a religion. Dede was clear about that. Strauss is clear. I love Strauss, of course. They're all very clear about that. So we're not doing our profession any favor by using religious vocabulary. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and while we say that, I mean, I'm not a religious man, but if other people have their faith in their religion, that's fine. But I always think whenever I read it on a website or something, I'm like, it's fine if you have your religion and your beliefs. That's great. But maybe, in my opinion, maybe keep that away from the profession. Like you'll see on websites all the time, like, oh, I was called to this by God, and whenever I adjust you, like it's releasing the power of God inside you. And I understand what they mean.
Yeah.
But as a member of the public who knows nothing about chiropractic, that might have negative connotations in your brain.
Yeah, I think there's like, just like the first one where you can change it, instead of saying chiropractic chose me, you can say I chose chiropractic. With this one's, instead of saying expect miracles, there's plenty of other things you can say. You should expect results. Trust your body, right? There's a lot of things you say, because this one's really for the clients, right? You're telling the clients expect miracles. But is it like what you said about websites, stuff like that? I'm not sure this is the best way that a profession like that is always trying to like get recognized, registered, legally recognized, like in Spain, for instance. It's not the best way to do that when you're professing miracles or telling people to expect miracles. That doesn't do the profession any favors politically or academically. Right?
I can think of one patient, one client in particular, who in the BCC, in my social circle, is referred to as Zarek's miracle patient. And now every time I hear that, I'm going to be like, oh no, Travis is going to scold me for that.
No, man, I really, seriously, like I said, subjectively from the client's perspective, I wouldn't change that one bit. But our list wasn't things that clients say, it's things that chiropractors say. So I'm strictly talking about it from the perspective of someone in our profession.
All right. Yep. So far it makes sense. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3. Okay. This one's got quite a bit. And it can be said a lot of ways. It's like trust innate, or listen to your innate. Well, this one has to be broken down a little bit.
Right.
And this will be important for number 4 as well.
I say this at least a couple of times a week. So I'm curious. Yeah. I'm curious as to why we shouldn't say it.
Well, first, I'll say this. If I said, would it make any sense to you if I said, listen to your big, listen to your small, listen to your blue, listen to your short, listen to your, those are all adjectives. The word innate is an adjective. It describes a noun. So first, like Andy Roberts used to say this, he would say, innate intelligence has a first and last name. Make sure you use both, right? So the assumption is, like, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that people, when they say listen to innate, trust your innate, They're talking about innate intelligence, but I don't really know, right? Are they talking about innate brain, innate mind, innate body, innate force? Maybe medical doctors talking about innate immunity, right? The word innate is just an adjective. So it's very irresponsible to say trust innate, because that inevitably leads to the question, innate what? Innate force? Innate intelligence? Because they all have different functions, right? So first, we should be more clear. When we say trust innate intelligence, I think is what they mean. When I hear, and this will be important for, yeah, we'll just talk about this in number 4. But as far as trust innate intelligence, yeah, of course, it's 100%. It can never be wrong, right? It can be interfered with. The expression can be interfered with. But trust your innate intelligence is great. Trust innate is incomplete. Make sense?
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
That one's short and sweet, but that's the way how we can correct that one. Instead of saying trust innate or listen to innate, you say listen to innate intelligence. That one I also have a problem with. I prefer trust innate intelligence. Listen, what is it you hear, right? When you understand the function of innate intelligence, it's, I would say look into the 5 signs of life, right? Assimilation, elimination, reproduction, adaptation, growth. That's innate intelligence's job. Taking care of those 5 things. Included in that 5, I didn't say anything about listening or it's speaking to us. That's why I don't like that listen to innate intelligence. What's it saying?
What about
what language?
not so much in chiropractic language, but more so in the normal everyday language? Listen to your gut, trust your gut.
That one I'm not too keen on either. I would say what people are trying to say, so I get what they're trying to say, but it could be better said by saying, listen to your or trust your intuition. Because the gut is, if you're listening to your gut, it only has 3 things to tell you. I'm full, I'm hungry, I need to poop.
Right.
That's what the gut tells you. But again, it's like number 1 and 2 on this list. Listen to your gut, listen to your heart. These are slogans, statements that appeal to emotion.
Right.
Right. Now, there's a more appropriate word, but we don't understand it and we just don't use it, which is a real shame, and that is intuition. Listen to your intuition. Trust your intuition. That's when you hear like in movies, you'll hear a police officer, that's just my gut tells me, I got this gut feeling. What it is intuition. Yeah. Same with clinicians or practitioners, chiropractic, right? After years of experience, your intuition is going to be hopefully superior to a brand new graduate.
Okay.
Right. And that serves the mind. It's like a shortcut. So I don't have to go through all those same processes again. Just like the police officer walks into a crime scene. If he's walked into multiple break-ins or burglaries, he or she will see things that the rookie doesn't see, and begins already drawing conclusions based on past experience. By the way, that's also the difference between intuition and instinct. Instinct is something you're born with.
For me,
intuition is what you build.
When you say instinct to me, I think of a way that you would react very quickly. If there's an emergency situation, your instinct is sort of like fight or flight or freeze. Yeah. That's an instinct, whereas intuition might be something more that you think about.
Yeah. They're both regardless, they're both shortcuts. I'll tell you a great example is we had a pet owl some time ago. Now that bird had never seen another bird, never seen another owl. It was raised from like little baby from the egg to like 2 years old before we let it go. Having never seen another owl or bird of prey or any other bird, it knew how to fly. Instinctively, it could fly. Instinctively, it could hunt. These are primal things. That's instinct. You have no choice. It's part of it. Although we live in a culture, I would say, that dulls our instincts, our animal instincts. But intuition is something you're building up through experience, hopefully building it up very well, in my opinion. And, but that's very different. That's what I think people mean when they say, listen to your gut, trust your gut.
I can see how people listening to this, they might, and I would have been the same before giving some thought to it. They might have said like, "Oh Jesus, that's just semantics. Like, don't worry about it." For
Yeah.
me, the big one was, "Hey Travis, can you adjust me?" "Oh, I can't adjust you, but I can check you." Like the amount of people that have said that to me, and I'm like, "Oh, just adjust me." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was Johnny Collar. He explained to me, he's like, well, whenever you go to the dentist, don't you want to go for a checkup? It's the
Yeah.
same thing as you want your clients to come here and you check them, and the objective is not to adjust them. So if you don't have to adjust them that day, they should be
Yeah.
happy. Whereas when
Yeah.
you go to the dentist, oh, I didn't have to get a filling today. You wouldn't be
Yeah.
pissed off. You'd be happy at that, and you just go to get checked. And then
Right.
my brain's like, okay, the words we're saying to the patient, yes, you can say, oh, it's just semantics, leave it alone. But when you think about it like that, it does actually mean something.
Yeah. That's it. I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's like a slippery slope. The moment you start saying to yourself, making these excuses like, it's just semantics. What you know what I mean when I say trust your gut. You know what I mean. Yeah, I do. But by not taking responsibility for our, when does it stop? When do you draw the line? How soon does our language have zero meaning? At what point do we draw a line? Right? Pretty soon, I just start telling you that I have these earphones. Well, I call them pineapples, just because. Right? Hey, that's what I mean. When I say
You know what I mean?
pineapples, I mean headphones. You know what I mean. And then you have to like know the Travis Corcoran dictionary. That's ridiculous, right? It's has no utility. It doesn't serve us, right? And it does seem like I'm splitting hairs, but think about it, if we could communicate, if we have the opportunity to communicate more clear, have more definition, right? I say this all the time. You go to like these big media stores that sell televisions. Every year, the televisions get higher definition, high definition. No one is going, do you have anything more low def? I'm looking for a less clear picture. That's what I want. No, people value clarity, more and more clarity. Yet with this irresponsibility of language, just taking things for granted, it's just semantics. Like how far are we going to go? Right? It's like our language is going in retrograde, backwards. We're getting less definition, less clarity. Meanwhile, technology has certainly surpassed humanity. So I think it's a fair point to be a little critical of these words. So that's why I don't say, I trust my gut, I listen to my gut, say I trust my intuition, or I try to. But people can have a bad intuition. It depends on the experiences that have built up and created your intuition. Right?
Okay.
But
what's next on the list?
Oh, that's good. Okay, we're only on number 4. Oh my God. But we've already covered some of this. Number 4, my innate speaks to your innate. Okay.
That one I don't think I've said that, but I have heard it a lot. So I'm curious as to why. Well,
I think you probably are. Well, we already talked about innate. I think let's assume that they mean my innate intelligence. I'm guessing. But again, back to the 5 signs of life and what innate intelligence does. Nowhere in those 5 signs of life does it say that speaking and listening, that's not what innate intelligence does. It doesn't speak and listen to other innate intelligences. In fact, Johnny Collar is who you should talk to about this as well, because I've never said this myself, but part of it I have, and that was putting the possessive pronoun before innate intelligence. My innate intelligence. Is my innate intelligence, how did this happen? Oh, we were at the ACP, and it was Lula and myself, and we were discussing, like, is the innate intelligence inside the baby the same as the innate intelligence in the mother? And we're having this long debate, and it's so funny that Johnny Collar walks along and just shut the whole thing down. We were discussing all these scenarios, like, okay, what if a whale swallows you and you're alive inside the whale? Is it innate intelligence? Are they different? And Johnny just came down, shut it down real quick. He's like, there is innate intelligence. That's it. There's universal intelligence. There's not my universal intelligence and there's universal intelligence. That's it. And it's the
Not
same with innate.
my gravity and your gravity. Yeah.
Right, same thing. So there is innate intelligence expresses itself in all living organisms, right? In living matter. There isn't like my particular innate intelligence in me and then some separate innate intelligence in you.
That's interesting because I've heard that so many times, my innate and your innate, and I never would have given it two thoughts. But now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, that actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that one I think is important because the more that we understand that one, the closer we get to understanding like the principles of chiropractic, in my opinion. And our concepts like innate intelligence, subluxation, these concepts are very profound, very real. They're legitimate phenomenon. However, if we're discussing them in this way, it's just an indication that we don't really understand them, which fuels that other extreme that would do anything to eliminate these terms, right?
Cool.
Next one. I bet you've said this one. Chiropractic sells itself.
Oh, I remember reading that one. I think I might try and find the clip, and I'm going to put it in here. If you look at the Science of Getting Rich series that I did with Pat McMahon of Syntropy,
Yeah.
I guarantee, I'm almost 100% sure that you would find me saying that. I think I say something along the lines of, we don't need sleazy sales scripts and stuff like that because this shit just sells itself. I'll try and find the clip. I think I said that.
Well, it's true to what you say. Like, I mean, chiropractic is so good, it really should be selling itself. But again, chiropractic isn't an agency. It just like it can't choose people, it cannot sell itself, it cannot market itself. And
you're personifying something that shouldn't be personified.
Exactly.
Right.
And to be honest, like if we were to ask, like right now, you're studying chiropractic in Barcelona, right? I'm practicing it in the Netherlands. I'll tell you what, if it weren't for BJ, who marketed and sold the shit out of chiropractic, I wouldn't be practicing here and you wouldn't be going to school in Barcelona. I guarantee you that. Like, there's so many people that this blows my mind, the logical inconsistencies or the contradictions of these people that get up on stage, internal referral, no marketing, and at the same time, quoting BJ, loving BJ, BJ's awesome, BJ Palmer. Man, that guy marketed and sold the shit out of chiropractic. And he'd be blowing up Instagram and Facebook.
What is it? He
right
said
now.
He was like early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise.
Yeah, he didn't say early to bed, early to rise, wake up early and pat yourself on the back for having a full internal referral practice, and chiropractic sells itself. He worked his ass off selling chiropractic, and we should all be thankful that he did.
But then where do we draw the line? Because we don't want to be sleazy salesmen and using all these tricks and marketing schemes. Yeah. And it is more consistent, in my opinion, with my vast years of experience in practice as a fourth-year student, to have an internal referral practice. For me, that seems more productive than relying on Groupon and all these things. But how do you frame that in a way where, yes, we're looking for internal referrals, but we don't want to be sleazy salespeople? How do you view that?
I agree. That's obviously a much, there's certainly a better ROI on that kind of practice where you don't have to invest in those things. However, I wouldn't tell someone to stop investing in that, because the more people you reach, the better it is for our profession. And if your clinic's at capacity, you send them to someone else, or you consider, how do I open another one? How do I remodel my practice to serve more people? How do I get an associate? What can we do in that term? Comfort is where dreams go to die. And a lot of people get really comfortable. Well, my practice is full. No need to tell the story anymore. No need to advertise, create awareness for this incredible profession and healthcare system, right? I just don't, would BJ have quit? Would he have stopped? No. I mean, it's no way, right? No. But what you said, like, how do we stop this sleazy, simple? Don't be sleazy, simple.
Right.
Just be direct, professional, honest, and stay in integrity. not every salesperson is a sleazy person. So it's not sales that's bad. It's how some people sell is bad. Like you mentioned Groupon. So I also give this as an example. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, throw out your television. Thing's horrible." What did the television kill anybody? It's just a bunch of plastic wires, some glass, and it's what's broadcast is either shit or of value.
But are the two not synonymous, Travis? If you have the TV, you're going to get all the shit. The two aren't, they're not.
It's just the tools. So is sales. So is it. Let me say this, a hammer. With a hammer, I can build you a house. Would you say that's of value? Yes. I could also smash all the windows in your house. How it's used is where you place the judgment, I'll say, or the value judgment. So it's the same with sales. If sales is a tool, like a hammer or a TV or the computer you're using right now, you could be using it to play video games, watch porno, or you can keep promoting chiropractic.
Right.
It's just a tool. Sales is no different. How are you using it? To sell drugs to kids, to sell weapons of mass destruction to dictators? Or are you using sales to bring to people what is probably the most, chiropractic, the best form of healthcare in the world? How you do it, are you tricking them? Is it bait and switch? Are you being dishonest? Or are you being in full integrity?
Right.
I wouldn't say sales is the bad thing.
It's how you use it.
Right. A hammer is not a bad thing. A hammer can be a great thing or a deadly thing.
Okay.
Right.
So let's say from an ethical standpoint, when we're selling chiropractic, for me, where you cross the ethical boundary is if that person is not interested in chiropractic at all and shouldn't really be in the office, but you're trying to bait and switch and you're trying to convince them, that's bad. Versus the person wants to be there, but maybe they've got some barriers in the head. They've told themselves a story, and all you're doing is you're taking down those barriers and showing them why this would be of great benefit to them, but still giving them the power to walk away. Then that's using sales as a...
Yeah. And it's real simple too. It's one of my core values is freedom. Respect other people's freedom. I want them to respect my freedom. When I go into any store, they present the value, they show me what this is, and I make the decision, I walk away or I purchase. What chiropractic should be identical. Here's what it does. Here are the features and benefits. And if you want to know a little bit more, I'll show you how it works. Here's what a typical visit's like. Blah, blah, blah. Are you in or not? Here's my best estimate based on clinical experience, how much care is needed, how much it costs, when I'll be seeing you.
All right.
Can you make it? Are you available? Are you interested? Do you value this? Great.
Is there any reason you can't do that? And then we figure out if we can work around those reasons or if it's something.
Yeah. And here's those people that feel they have to use these methods to get someone in who otherwise wouldn't have started care if they hadn't used those methods. Trust me,
trust in it.
They trust me when I tell you that those practitioners that use those techniques, they will end up paying themselves because they're going to have a practice full of people that they've deceived. And I'm telling you that's going to create a nightmare for that practitioner. Having an office filled with people that you've deceived.
Yes.
Trust me, the reckoning will come for them. It always does at some point. However, if your practice is filled with people that you sold to with integrity, you're going to have a lovely practice. But you know what? You're still selling. You're still selling. There's nothing wrong with selling, just like there's nothing wrong with a hammer or television. However, what are you watching on it? What are you using it for? Same with sales. How are you performing your sales? That, in fact, would be a bad thing.
All right, great. That's my favorite one so far.
Lost my headphone. Next. Okay, this one I've heard a couple times. And it's not bad. It's too much. So this is number 6. I am a vitalistic chiropractor, or I'm looking for a vitalistic chiropractor. Can you recommend a vitalistic chiropractor?
I'm guilty of this one for sure.
Yeah, we all are. Me too. This is one of the ones I used to say all the time, quite a bit actually.
All right. So tell us why. Tell us why you disagree.
Well, I've changed. I get what it's saying, and I'll say this is not wrong. It's just silly. You maybe heard me say this before, but no one says, I'm an aquatic swimmer. Of course you are. There's no other freaking kind, right? I'm a space astronaut. No shit, right? What other kind of astronaut is there? Right. So the chiropractic, because we only work with living organisms. I don't adjust any corpses, right? And the etymology of the word vital, of or pertaining to life, every chiropractor is vitalistic. Every one of us. So it's not wrong to say vitalistic chiropractor, just like it is not wrong to say aquatic swimmer. It's just silly. And it's really actually okay if you want to say you're a vitalistic chiropractor, even though it sounds silly, but I would rather sound silly than to completely deny the vitalistic concept, which many on the materialistic extreme do. They condemn the term vitalism, the concept of vitalism, which is very interesting. Like, right. I'm curious, do they only treat dead clients? Right? So you have two choices. You can condemn vitalism as a healthcare practitioner, this is absolutely ridiculous and wrong. Or you can say, I'm a vitalistic chiropractor, which is kind of silly and redundant because of course you are, everyone is. Or the third option, which I choose now, is I'm a chiropractor or a principled chiropractor. But what I found and why I stopped saying vitalistic, because what it does, it automatically just polarizes two groups. It's divisive. It's a way of saying like I'm better than others.
I'll be devil's advocate there. So then you say I'm a, what was he said? I'm a principled chiropractor. Yeah, sure. I'm a principled chiropractor. So what that means that someone on the other side of the spectrum, they don't have principles.
Which can also be divisive. But the reason I say that is because the materialistic extreme, when you identify yourself as vitalistic, that word has got so much buzz now that they just attack it.
Right.
If you say you're principled, what are they going to say? Oh, principles, that's ridiculous. Really? Fundamental truths useful in a chain or system of reasoning is ridiculous?
But on that logic, is not everybody, regardless of their beliefs, a principled chiropractor because you have your beliefs?
Well, beliefs and principles aren't the same thing, right?
Right.
In fact, they're very different. But there's I would say every chiropractor that's, caring for living people is vitalistic. But certainly not every chiropractor is principled. Right? Some don't understand the principles. Some, even worse, not only do they not understand the principles, they're not even aware of them, right?
What about if we look at it from the perspective of if someone posts on a Facebook group, which I'm sure I've done and I know plenty of other people that do it, I am looking for a principled chiropractor in Luxembourg. Again, we're on the thing about semantics. I know internally what they're looking for when they say that. They don't want someone that's going to be doing acupuncture and selling supplements. They want someone that's going to go and adjust them chiropractically. So how would you phrase that?
I think we all know exactly what we're looking for. When we say a vitalistic chiropractor, you're saying, I want someone who locates, analyzes, and corrects when necessary vertebral subluxation.
Okay.
That's what you want. What's that?
Is that what we should say, literally?
I'm looking for someone that checks for subluxation.
Right.
But ultimately, that's what I want. Right? I don't want someone that's going to sell them essential oils, which I have nothing against oils, and I got nothing against dry needling, acupuncture. But when I want chiropractic care for a client or family member or friend or someone that's asking, I'm looking for someone that actually gives chiropractic care, which is the location, analysis, and correction of vertebral subluxation when necessary. That's what I want. It doesn't have to be called that specifically is a vitalistic chiropractor. I want someone that's not in denial, the subluxation deniers. I basically just don't want to send someone there. Right. Yes. So I'm looking for someone that checks for subluxation and corrects when necessary.
So to confirm on that one, instead of saying I am looking for a vitalistic chiropractor in Luxembourg, we should say I am looking for a chiropractor in Luxembourg to send a patient to who will
Check for
locate,
subluxation.
analyze, and if necessary, adjust vertebral subluxation.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, I'm not opposed to people doing other things, but that's what I want. I know
That's
that,
what I want. So yeah.
Yeah. And vitalistic has kind of become like the shorthand for that. And we all make the assumption that if you're vitalistic, that's what you're doing anyway, I presume.
Right.
Now, vitalism itself is, naturally we all, again, here's another take on it too. If I could play advocate or like retort to myself or a rebuttal to myself, is that it also can be the ideology. A vitalistic chiropractor is someone who recognizes that there is this life force inside of the living organism. But to me, that seems redundant. Of course there is. Right? There's, it's not, it's just, I would say it's assumed. Right? If you're walking around, you're animated, then there's definitely life force inside you. Just like the tree, anything that's exhibiting those 5 signs of life is vital, of or pertaining to life. If it can grow, reproduce, assimilate, eliminate, adapt, it's alive. So it just seems redundant. But I think that's what I guess this would be one of the forgiving nuances to this, is that when someone says vitalistic chiropractor, they're just referring to someone that recognizes a life force inside of living organisms, which seems common sense. And it's funny that we now have to say that because there's an entire extreme lunatic end that denies there's a life force inside of living things, that living things adapting, growing, reproducing, eating and eliminating, that somehow there is no life in them. Those are not vital.
Yeah, there's no randomized, controlled, double-blinded study to prove that exists. Therefore, there's no way that it exists. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So I think maybe that's probably where that came from, or how it started, was because there are people just denying this, that we had to differentiate ourselves. And it probably served like a really good purpose a long time ago. But personally, I try not to use it anymore.
All right, cool.
All right. These last 4, these are not strictly about chiropractic, but the first one, I talk about this one at great length. This was the second one you sent me, and that is speak your truth. That is my truth. Actually, why don't you take this one, because I've spoken about it so much. I hope that you fully understand why this one is a mistake.
Well, this one, I don't know if I would have been saying this that much, but I wouldn't have thought anything of it if I'd heard someone else say it. So Travis was basically saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it was a long time ago that I heard you say this on stage, that there is the truth. So when you put your truth or my truth or their truth, you're putting subjectivity into it. There might be your interpretation of the truth, which is your opinion, but the truth is the truth. There is no, speak your truth. But I think when people say speak your truth, they're saying, well, I'm lost with that one. What is it they're trying to verbalize?
They just want to share their perception, their opinion, their idea, their thoughts, their beliefs. All those are subjective concepts, but truth is an objective concept. And so that makes sense, right? Like, yeah, you have your perspective, I have my perspective. You have your ideas, I have my ideas. Our opinions, we have our beliefs, right? And that's all fair. But the truth is a very different thing. And what gets confusing, you mentioned it, you said there is the truth. I would say there isn't the truth. There's the truth about this, there's the truth about that. But truth is an objective concept. We can find truth about certain things, truth about thermodynamics, the truth about gravity, the truth about the Pythagorean theorem. You can find truth about a lot of things, right? But it's not my Pythagorean theorem, which is different than your Pythagorean theorem. No, that's why we have the word truth. It's objective. It is independent of the observer. But We both may have different opinions about or feelings and ideas about some truths, right? The way we look at them, the meaning they have in our life, and that's subjective. But the truth itself, there is no your truth or my truth. There's just truth about this, truth about that. There are many truths. Right?
All right. So then, devil's advocate, what if you and I interpret chiropractic in different ways, and I practice my version of chiropractic? Well, then maybe you would argue there is chiropractic, and then there's your way of practicing chiropractic. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you do a lot of Thompson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if you really like Thompson, but I really like Gonstead? Well, that's my truth. That's my way of practicing chiropractic. That's my interpretation of chiropractic. How does it relate to the?
Well, it's not your truth. It's your application of the principles, right? This is how I practice this art, right?
Right.
Yeah. You're just saying this is my preferred method of locating, analyzing, correcting vertebral subluxation. I prefer this method.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. We have preferences. Like, say we were both artists. Like, you might prefer oil paint. I might prefer water paint.
Right.
But like, you're still going to paint a landscape. I'm going to paint a landscape because that's what the client ordered. But you may use ink. I may use this. I may do finger painting.
So do you think
that's my preferred method, right?
Do you think when people look at other techniques, just for conversation's sake, say I'm doing Gonstead and I look at you and I'm like, oh, well, this is not practicing chiropractic. That's like an artist with oil looking at an artist doing sketch and saying, yeah, but Travis is not practicing art when he does this. Is that okay?
The client's going to ultimately, those are perspectives and like preferences, and the client will decide. Some clients don't like Gonstead, maybe, and some do. Some like Nuka, some like this. They'll find and choose who they want, and they'll go, just like someone commissions a painting. Oh, I don't like it done in ink, and that's how Travis does it. I prefer it from Xerox. He does oil painting.
Right.
I'll have my own client base, and you're going to have your own client base, and they subjectively decide that.
Yeah.
I think in general,
if we're looking at that, my head's of lots of questions with that one. So what if my interpretation of how I'm practicing Gonstead is I locate, detect, and correct vertebral subluxation, but then I look at another chiropractor who is mixing, but that's that person's interpretation of chiropractic, but then you could argue that they're not correcting subluxation, maybe they're correcting compensation. But then it's not really right to be like, oh, this is not the practice of chiropractic, which is what we do, right? And I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, you could, but again, this has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with interpretation.
Right.
Which is
they might think that by adjusting compensation that they are practicing chiropractic, whereas another person might argue that you're not.
Yeah, and that's good to have that argument, to be honest. Right? It's only through discourse that we do get closer to the truth.
Yeah, that one I feel like that one you could do a 1 hour podcast on that one alone.
Easily, we could get into philosophy, sophistry, sophism, those things, and discourse or love of discourse, love of wisdom. That we could talk about that for an entire hour, because that's really the expression of knowledge and understanding, or it's the third liberal art. And it's also, I'll leave it at that, but that could be a long podcast.
Yeah, that's a big tangent, that one.
Next one, I love this one. One of my buddies, an old associate of mine, he'll listen to this and have a good laugh. And people say it all the time: less is more. Right? I'm sure.
Man, I said that this week. I said it this week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to agree with you on this one, but I'm excited to hear your interpretation. Tell me.
Well, what if I said to you that big is small, small is big, something is nothing, nothing is something, or even better, I'll do it like this so I can make the point. In fact, I mean, these two words, you look them up in the dictionary, they're exact opposites. So they cannot be the same. Red is not blue, blue is not red, on is not off. full is not empty. Less is not more, right? And if I said to you, 2.54 is 1. Does that make sense? It's not. 2.54 is not 1. But if I did say this, 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. It is. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. So when people say less is more, it might be better if they define less of what is more of what.
Right.
Less ums when I'm talking.
Sorry to interrupt. Now,
Less, so less words might have more impact. Less of this might have more of this. Less of this might give you more of that.
I'll tell you what the context of why I was saying it. So I was adjusting a lot of segments a couple of weeks ago. And then I was like, right, I'm going to put the rule on myself that from now on, I'm going to adjust 3 segments per visit and I'm going to see what happens. So I'm putting more thought into the analysis and I'm picking the 3 that I want to adjust and I'm leaving it at 3. And my results in only a month have gone up. And I'm getting more referrals and people are getting better quicker. And then I was saying to the first years, I'm like, less is more. But then
Less
in your interpretation,
less adjustments is more
in one
results.
session is going to give you quicker results.
Yeah,
right.
Less. That's what you're trying to say. Less adjustments is more results.
Yes.
Or less adjustments is more impactful. But you're not. But less is not more. I'll tell you, one of my associates, former associates, is a good guy, and when he said this to me, he's like, and he was really arguing it. I've had arguments about all these statements, by the way. But when he said less is more, I said, okay, then I'll pay you less, so you make more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. If less is more, I'll pay you less money. And then you're right. But then quickly he understood what I was talking about. Right. Less.
Well, on first impression of reading that, I was like, that's one I'm not going to agree. But yeah, now that you've verbalized it and explained it, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. All right. Less is not more.
Right. One is not 2.54.
Sure.
However, 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So it's just the addition. It's clarifying those things. You look at all the things we make assumptions about in our language. It's the same thing with innate. Just say innate intelligence. Then you're getting closer. There's more clarity, more definition. I understand. Our discourse is better, right? Same, if less is more, just say less of what and more of what, and then our discourse is better. We have more clarity, more definition, right?
Cool. All right.
And which is more wisdom, right? This discourse is wisdom. We are expressing our mutual knowledge and understanding, and we want it to be better. That's why this is important, right? In my opinion. Number 9. Okay, this one's tricky. I love this one though. It's really about how it's used. This statement is true. There is nothing wrong with this statement. It's its use that I have an issue with, and that is, everything happens for a reason. Right? That's true. I think it's principle 17. For every cause there's an effect, and every effect there's a cause.
So I get the impression that this is going to go the same way as personifying something else. And this is kind of along the lines of the chiropractic chose me thing. You're putting power into something that...
Not necessarily. I would say this one is, although I see where you're going with that, but what I want to say, this one is often used to avoid conflict, or I'll say even better, to avoid investigation, to avoid an intellectual investigation. There's a mystery appears before you. Well, everything happens for a reason, and you go about your day. Right. That should not be the end of, it basically shuts off intellectual, what's the word I'm looking for? Investigation or initiating thought.
So it's
really,
like
it should be the
pull out
beginning.
into the road and the car almost hits you, and then you drive off and go, well, everything happens for a reason, instead of thinking, oh, actually, I should have looked both ways before I pulled out there.
Exactly.
Right.
And the example I always give, because it's for chiropractic, I always imagine what would happen if D.D. Palmer said that. Like, he made these observations. He's looking around. He notices there's all these people. They work together. They eat at the same table. Right? They breathe the same air. He doesn't say to himself, well, everything happens for a reason, and then go back to beekeeping. It wasn't the end of thought for him. It was the beginning of thought. It instigated an intellectual investigation. He said, everything happens for a reason. I wonder what it is. Why is it that this one man gets sick, but the other people at that table eating the same food, breathing the same air, doing the same job, why aren't they sick?
It's the
why? What is that reason?
Questions and saying, yeah.
So instead of going, well, everything happens for a reason, and then ending it, he goes, well, everything happens for a reason. What is that reason? Right?
Okay. Sure.
There's a big difference. So that's what I mean by, is it used to avoid, which people are trying to avoid pain in the brain. Oh, I don't want to think, right? So everything happens for a reason, and then they just hands off. Or is it everything happens for a reason? I'm really curious what that reason is. There's a distinct difference.
All right.
So it's really just about the usage. And then the last one, it's all about intention. What do you think about that?
I think I've probably said this one. I've definitely heard it.
Yeah.
But I'm probably guilty of saying this one.
Well, certainly intention is important, but is it enough? Right? You had the intention to become a chiropractor. That didn't make you a chiropractor. The intention is really good. It's really important. It's what brought you to BCC. It's what makes you study. You have this intention behind you, but intention is not enough. Like, if my intention is to fly a plane, or my intention is to do heart surgery, you don't want to be my patient. You don't want to be on my plane. Right. If I've never gone to pilot school, I've never trained, my intention to fly and land the plane safely is not enough. Right. Intention is not everything. It is a great component, and it's what drives us, but it is not everything. Yeah, and I see this used a lot by chiropractors as an excuse to not really practice their technique. Well, yes. I don't need to practice and hone my skills because my intention is good. It's enough.
I agree. I've seen posts where it's like, what differs chiropractic from osteopathy or physiotherapy? And you'll see a lot of people saying the intention. And I'm like, if the intention is the only thing that separates us from another profession, not that there's anything wrong with that profession, but then our profession's in trouble. If the only differentiator is intention, then we're in trouble. If intention was the sole driver of results or success, I would be a professional boxer, because sincerely, that was my plan. As a teenager, my plan was, I'm going to be a professional boxer. And then you get hit with reality. And when I got to at youth level, I was good. And when I got to senior level, when you're fighting with people much older and the weight categories change, blah, 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 I realized I was like, okay, the intention is there. I would like to do this, but simply I do not have the ability.
Yeah.
But the intention was there.
Yeah, that's well said. I think, I think you understand that 100%. And that, to answer that question real quick too, when people, I see those posts a lot too, that you brought up, like, what's the difference between a osteopath, manual therapist, or whatever, in a chiropractor? And people say intention. I would say a better answer would be objective. We have different objectives. Right. Different application of our art, and with different objectives in mind, backed by different principles. You summed it up perfectly. It is not the intention. Otherwise, we'd all be pros, right? Yeah, and and again, I'm not picking on anyone when I say this, but you'll see people do certain things. I'm like, oh, what was the indicator to do that? Why did you do that instead of doing this? Be like, oh, I trust my hands. I'm like, well, or they were listening to Innate. Yeah. You're innate, or they're innate, or the patient. Yeah, they were listening to their innate. Innate was speaking to them. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So
Now, all those, like that whole list of 10, like it's not, people saying these are not bad people. It's good people with good intentions for the most part. I mean, maybe I'm making an assumption, but unfortunately, many of these have just become slogans. And I think if we defined ourselves better, had more clarity in our communication, that our profession would certainly, I would love to see it elevated, right? To reach the heights that it's destined to have. It's this profession is its impact on humanity is profound, and it's a shame that like vitamin sales and acupuncture and yoga are on a steep rise in terms of utilization. Yet the latest thing I've seen on chiropractic, it went from 3.5 to 3.4% in the same time that all these other natural things are shooting through the roof. And we've been around longer, and our
3.5% of what? What's that?
utilization rate. I'll tag
Oh,
you.
okay.
I don't have the post, but I actually have it screenshotted. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. All
But that's
right.
something we can do is to take responsibility, to the ability to respond and to talk and speak clearly about our profession, to understand it clearly. And yeah, when we get more clear on our words and yeah, stop with these slogans. And it's kind of the same way that you feel about sales, like a Groupon. To you and me as well, a Groupon is cheap and sleazy and it makes us look horrible.
Yeah, you're
That is
putting yourself
exactly,
with people that paint your nails and give you a
yeah.
foot rub, and yeah.
And that same feeling is the same feeling or perception I have about the way we use our language. That
Right.
we can certainly market and sell chiropractic better than what some people are doing. And we can certainly communicate and talk about it better than we have been doing. And I think that's a small ask, to like, but you'll know that this is a good litmus test. The people that are going to listen to this stuff, the ones that get angry about what we discussed, they're unwilling to change.
Yeah.
Those that are going,
And again, another disclaimer, we're not picking on anyone when we say this.
no,
I'm guilty of saying all these things. And another one, I love slogans, and I love going to these seminars and you shout, the power that made the body heals the body. And I've a mentor of mine, Jaime Pinillos, and he calls it bumper sticker philosophy. He's like, this is bumper sticker philosophy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nice. It feels good at the time, but all Travis is trying to do, or my interpretation of what Travis is trying to do, is just give a list of 10 things that you can just put a little bit of thought into maybe changing. And it's up to you if you want to do that, but this is just his interpretation. And yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to that. You've given me some great points to think about.
I love that you have that, that you're walking away from it like that. It really shows that you don't just have an open mind or a closed mind, but you have an active mind, which is something I talk about a lot too. You're willing to change, you're willing to listen. There's a lot of people, like I said, that listen to this discussion and the emotions rise and they're angered because they're attached to these slogans. They hold on to them, which is interesting because a lot of those same people, Zarek, out of the other corner of their mouth, they're saying, I want the profession to grow. I want it to spread. And they have this desire for the profession to go forward, but they refuse to change. I'm not telling them to change their ideologies. This is not a discussion. It's simply how you express them to the community. That's it. So if you love the profession, you're not willing to speak with more clarity and more authority and more credibility and create more preeminence for this profession because you're so attached to that slogan that you've been saying for years and you refuse to give it up. That's quite selfish in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's like my interpretation of that is if I'm saying less is more, which I did say this week, and Travis says, well, actually, and explains it, it's not that Travis is saying that I'm stupid or I'm a bad person or I shouldn't be a chiropractor. He's just saying, I just want you to give a little bit of thought to this thing that you're saying, and then it's up to you whether you continue to say it or you refrain from saying it. And
Exactly.
that's all it is. Just keep an open mind. He's not saying you're stupid or that you're a bad person. He's just getting you to think about it in a different way.
Yeah. I've said some of those, just like I love that you have the courage to admit hey, I've said some of these, but you're willing to listen, to correct or not correct. It doesn't matter to me. I still appreciate and respect you. There's some of these things I've said myself, and I've just taken responsibility for it. There's probably more things I'm saying, and I love speaking with other people that can help me or show me how I can do it better. That's what I'm trying to do.
I can guarantee that I'll continue to say stupid shit. Don't worry about that. And a lot of it will be recorded and all for public viewing here.
You and me both. You and me both. But I'll take responsibility for what I say, and I know you will too.
Take responsibility for what you're saying. All right, Travis, thank you so much. This has been very informative, and I'd love to have you back on here sometime. And for anyone listening or watching, I hope it gave you some stuff to think about. And thank you again, man.
You bet, man. Thanks, Shark.
Right. Ciao.